It's about as good as Matt Kuchar missing a top 10 6-1 that I had for read the line by leaving his eagle putt on
Quarter
the
inch?
edge of the hole on the 18th.
Quarter inch? Yeah, just one more half rotation it goes in.
It's like Mexico, man. You just need one more revolution.
I didn't expect that from you, Keith. That's great.
Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog, the 2025 Butterfield Bermuda Championship picks, research, and preview, plus a recap of what happened in the world of golf last week between Mexico, Abu Dhabi, Japan. It was all there. Keith Stewart is joining me on the line from readtheline.com. Keith, I do want to start out with, on this show last week, we gave out a 100-1 winner and a 50-1 winner. That's always going to make you in the positives for a week. It was the first, this is so sad. I mean, it shouldn't be because it was a 100-1 win, but it was the first triple-digit winner I've hit in like 18 months.
It has me so excited, Pat. Well, first of all, good morning. But it has me so excited, I put on pink for Bermuda this week. You know, the trend is our friend. Let's roll with it, my friend.
So Nick Dunlap, we spoke about him going down the board. You identified him as an outright down the board. And then I pushed back on you saying, you know what? I don't know if Nicky D's got it in him for 4 rounds. You know what he could do? Chip in for eagle on his final hole in the first round to get to -11 to hit a 200-1 first round leader, only to be caught by a wacky Valimaki like 3 minutes later at -11, who went birdie, birdie, birdie to end his round. But you know what? I'm not going to complain about a 200-1 turning into 100-1. Still a very nice win for the week.
You know, I always complain about the first round markets getting cut, but getting cut to 100-1, not too bad.
This is it's one of the reasons to take those long shots. And then the each way with the top 5 paid in full. So it was 1/4 the odds of 200 at 50-1. My outrights weren't bad. They just weren't good. I feel bad for you with Higo, though, because Higo had this and then he imploded coming down the stretch.
Well, the fairways, I mean, we talked about it all last week. They're very tight there. So if you miss a fairway, you were going to cause yourself a little bit of trouble. You know, the guy hits it in some scrub brush how that even happened with a 3-iron. It wasn't even the driver. And, 19 minutes later with a drop and everything else, double bogey. And, well, there you go. It's about as good as Matt Kuchar missing a top 10 6-1 that I had for read the line by, leaving his eagle putt on the edge of the hole on the 18th.
Quarter inch? Yeah, just one more half rotation it goes in.
It's like Mexico, man. You just need one more revolution.
I didn't expect that from you, Keith. That's great.
Hey, man.
I was playing for each ways on Sunday because my guys were just too far back. Too much would have needed to happen between Higo, Trevor Cohn, Carson Young, Ben Griffin. Like, there was too many guys ahead of them that not only would I had Eric Cole and Patrick Rogers in the mix, about 5 strokes back, but they would have had to shoot a 61 or 62, and those guys above them would have had to be like 67 or worse, which just didn't seem feasible at this course between 5 separate guys. But I did make this point on actually the live Red Zone stream that we were doing, because we actually had the golf on at the same time, is that if Ben Griffin wanted to be taken seriously as a good golfer, this was his tournament to win going into the final day. Like, he had to win that tournament. He moves up to 9th in the world with his win. He did what he had to do. But looking at his name, a guy who's won twice already on tour, played on the Ryder Cup, was on the precipice of being top 10 in the world. If he can't run down like these bunch of jabronis in Mexico, what are we even doing here?
Well, I tell you what, I have a sore taste in my mouth from the Procore because I had Ben Griffin there as an outright. And of course, he didn't show up with Scotty last hole, the 3-putt. But you know where he did show up? He showed up at the Ryder Cup, and he showed up pretty much all year. You are absolutely right. This is a place where he had to definitely contend, if not win. He does it. And, he and Spawn were the 2 favorites, but this was a much better fit for, obviously, BG, and he got the job done. I'm sure Worldwide Technology is pretty happy. It's right there on his hat.
Oh, I didn't realize they were one of the sponsors.
Oh, yeah. So Worldwide Technology is on the front of his hat. So I don't know when the last time is somebody that, was sponsored by the company that was the sponsor of the tournament, but, pretty good symmetry right there.
That's not bad. So I had Rogers and Eric Cole trying to make a run. Cole got he didn't eject himself early. He just wasn't making enough birdies Like when you see Nico Echeverria be 6 under through 7 holes, like that happened every single week. Like that's how you had to make the move. Higo did it in round 3, I think it was, or it was round 2, where he was like 9 under through 10. If you're not going to get off to one of those starts, you probably don't have much of a chance at making a move. So obviously he's out of it. Then he birdies his final 5 holes to end the day to end up at, he was either T8 or T10. But it was Rogers who was in the mix, and he bogeyed 13 or 14. And of course, he finishes his round. He birdies 18. He goes birdie on 17 and 18. I'm like, all right, I can get a top 5 finish here. This will be excellent. It'll add to a really nice week. So he's T3, but then everyone else gets 18 coming down the stretch. He goes from T3 to T4 to T5. Carson Young has a putt to move ahead of him. He misses the birdie putt. I'm like, okay, we have a chance here. We have Trevor Cone putting downhill for birdie from 6 feet. Like, he's a terrible putter. And I've seen Matt Kuchar just missed a similar putt by somehow leaving it short down the hill. Like you just pointed out, Cone, dead center, T5 to T6. No money for Patrick Rogers.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when you have those closing holes like that are so scoreable. Kuchar did the same thing for me. He finished T11. We had Cole. He was T10. 90 to 1 to get to T10 is pretty nice, but we just, in the end, we needed a couple more putts to fall. But you know what? We were right around there. We were contending. I mean, you and I, we do this every week. We dig in and we try to find the best opportunities. And to get, on my card, I had 3 of 4 guys. Bridgman was, lost in the weeds, but the 3 other guys, Higo, Cole, and Kuchar on my card, they all contended, and they gave me a sweat on Sunday for a little while. Higo the deepest, and we move on.
Carson Young, he didn't get screwed, but did you see what happened to him on the par 5? That he was lucky Ben Griffin only parred the hole, and he only ended up bogeying, but he ended up in that similar situation going it for 2. He overcooked it to the left, then it hit the slope, went over the cart path into the bush. He tried to play it from the bush and like the sand in the bush, got it up the hill, came back down the hill, ended up back on the cart path again, or just past the cart path, and he got free relief. Why does he get free relief from over there? Isn't that a penalty area?
I didn't see the shot at that particular time. I was flipping back and forth between football, and that one I didn't see. I did see the whole Higo drama play out. But at that point, when he made double, I was kind of like, you know what? Maybe I'll watch the Commanders for a little bit.
Yeah, how did that go for you?
About as well as Higo. Or, you know what? It went exactly how the LPGA went on Sunday.
Okay.
Nobody showed up.
Break this down for people, because we had a sweat. You gave us one player to bet on the LPGA Tour, 25 to 1, 3 strokes back going into the final round. And then what happened?
They had a monsoon over there in Japan, and they had so much rain that they took the 2 ladies that were tied for first, and they had them go out and do like a 1-hole playoff. You remember Tiger and Tom Lehman back in the day at La Costa when they had the 1 par 3, or there was another one too with Phil and Gary Nicholas one year. I think it was Atlanta, where, I mean, this is a long time ago, but there was so much rain. There was more rain predicted that they canceled the final round. They got 54 holes in, and they took those 2 ladies. They sent them out. They put them on a par 3, and then they played it out in Nasa Hataoka. She ends up winning on the first playoff hole, which we had the week before in Malaysia. So that was great. And then Our Lady, Shuri Sakumi, she was 3 back, trending, love it, in her home country of Japan. Japan's best golfer on the JLPGA, looking for a run out of her. And unfortunately, we didn't get anything out of Sunday. No final round.
That's a bummer. We lose there. I didn't bet on the Abu Dhabi over in Europe, but I did wake up early to watch the final 5 holes. And it was a very fun tournament, although that course sucks.
Yeah. I mean, some of those golf courses over there are just too plain Jane for me. And I wish I had more time in the week, because I love some of those DP World Tour events. I think there's definitely some edges there. But overall, Tommy Fleetwood is a thing. And I know everyone's going to like rolling into Magnolia Lane. They're grabbing all their futures right now. But, the last time we went to Shinnecock for the U.S. Open, Fleetwood was pretty good. So if you're going to do it, if you're a futures guy, maybe that's a place to look too, because this guy's playing unbelievable golf right now, going toe-to-toe with people like Rory and just showing up and contending and pulling a Ben Griffin, and in a field where you're supposed to do well, you do well, and you almost win. Pretty impressive by Fleetwood.
So what happened was the final group was Aaron Rai, Tommy Fleetwood, and Nikolai Højgaard, and they were all kind of trading back and forth. Tommy made some nice putts mid-round to get himself into that tie. Then on the final par 5, Ryan, Tommy aren't like the longest dudes in the world. So they tried going for the green, and you could just see them trying to play this massive draw. Aaron Ryan, not a big drawer of the golf ball, so that didn't really work out great for him. But they all just ended up in the collection area, which is fine. You get up and down. Hopefully for birdie, probably a par. But Nikolai had a chance on the final hole after Rory shot 62 and ended up a shot out of the playoff. That Nikolai, he bombs it. He gets there in two. He has this like 15-foot eagle putt, and he just overplayed the break a little. He didn't play enough. Yeah, he overplayed the break a little bit and ended up on the high side of the hole. That drops for him. He gets into that playoff. Although I was surprised, just not much was made about, I guess it's because Tommy won the last time we saw him. He got his win at the Tour Championship. He was awesome at the Ryder Cup that no one's really holding it against him. It's just weird to see him lose to Aaron Rai in a Rolex Series event over in Abu Dhabi.
Hey, man, we're going to say this all the time, Pat. Golf is hard. Everyone's trying to win. Aaron Rai is an impressive player. What he's done on the tour the last 2 years, winning on the PGA Tour, contending in majors, becoming guys that we talk about when we're speaking about the Open Championship or some of the more difficult venues there on the PGA Tour or the DP World Tour. So you got to give Aaron Rai all the credit in the world. And, the ball striking's always been there. The two gloves have always been there. But the work that he did on his putting about 18 months ago in order to become more of a contender week in and week out has certainly paid off for him. And I see him all the time out there. The guy is an absolute worker. He's got the alignment sticks out there. He spends tons of hours on the putting green. The guy's putting in all the work in the world. He's very methodical. So, and he's the nicest guy. If you approach him or you're walking by him, he'll stop. Like if you say, hey, good luck this week, or hey, Aaron, how you doing, or whatever, he'll stop. He'll talk to you. So same thing with Tommy, but he's a superstar. Aaron Rai is an absolute gem of a guy. And if he has success, I'm all for it.
It's funny that Tommy's actually really helped my game out a bunch because I haven't started doing like the complete sawed-off shot, but just to straighten the ball out a little bit more, especially with my irons, and flight it a little bit better. Because I was always a low ball hitter. I just had no height on my ball. And then I trained myself to hit the ball really high, but then I lost all control of the ball. I was like, well, I can get it to stop on the green, but it no longer hits the green anymore. So that's now a problem. So I found this nice middle ground with the Tommy follow through that just really works for me. I don't know if it works for a lot of people, but it keeps my pace much better, my momentum a lot better, and it flows a lot more. I'm not trying to like absolutely smash the ball. It gets high enough, but now it does have some stop control, and I'm not spinning the ball like a pro out here like you, but it's working for me with that little sawed off.
Well, hey, let me put my PGA hat on for a second. More people should try, at least in their warm-up sessions or in their practice sessions, what they see Tommy do out there. And what he's doing, there's two parts to your golf swing. There's a swing with the club, and then there's a turn with your body. And he has those very aligned, and more people should feel that. And in order to do that, if you can't stop the club in your follow through, that means that those two things aren't connected. So a lot of people, when they follow through, their back foot kind of, spins out, or the golf club is whipping around them and they don't have very much balance. So if you can do what Tommy does, which is stop the club in your follow through, which would be a really good skill to have this week when you talk about how to play the Butterfield Bermuda Championship or how to play Port Royal. Good transition here, Pat. But, overall, more people would benefit from swinging the way that Tommy does, especially with their irons, their mid irons, their short irons, their wedges. It will help you control your spin, your trajectory. More often than not, when people hit it high, what you learned is that they've got the handle behind the ball at impact, which means they've lost control and stability. So now the face is all over the place and there's tons of spin. If you've got the handle ahead, which is what Tommy's doing, which is he can only do that because his chest and his body have turned ahead of the ball, then now you have much more control, which is definitely what we're looking for on the big grid of golfers this week when we go into, windy Bermuda.
Well, that's going to be the case. Checking the weather forecast might be a fool's errand here because we know that the winds can pick up almost out of nowhere, being situated directly on the Atlantic in the middle of November. Even though it's nice, it's hot in Bermuda, but winds can come out of nowhere at this course, and it does wreak havoc. So you might want to prepare for that either way. And another way that you can prepare is at betspertsgolf.com. Use the rabbit hole like I'm going to do right now to break down exactly what's going on at this this course, the stats we need to look at, and some early leans on players before Keith rejoins me and we talk about the betting board.
BetSportsGolf.com/Mayo to get yourself a discount on all of the information. We got Port Royal Golf Course, only 6,828 yards, playing as a par 71. Obviously, Bermuda grass greens, 8,000 square foot greens, 87 bunkers, 7 holes with water in play, mainly the ocean, and that weird like little half lake thing that just goes in between the left-hand side of the hole. I think it's number 17, whatever the last par 5 is. I went back and I watched a whole bunch. Yeah, it is number 17. Watched a whole bunch of the past few tournaments to try to get a grasp of what's actually going on here. Only 120 players in the field, top 65 and ties make the cut. And frankly, Port Royal is a precision competition. It is point, shoot, and putt. Just take a look at some of these winners. You got Campos, Villegas, Power, Lucas Herbert. Brian Gay won this tournament at 47 years old. No one is off the table this week in Bermuda. If you're an old dude who can hit their wedges and still putt, because distance doesn't really mean anything. Like accuracy is preferred, obviously, but it's not that big of a deal at the same time because the rough isn't all that long. It's a lot like Waialae in this sense. The main defense of this course is the wind. We saw it materialize in the final round a year ago, whether it be Lauer, Whaley, and even Novak. Dudes were 3-putting from inside 2 feet. It was outrageous, and Campos was just able to keep it together long enough. The wind is going to affect your club choices. Number 16 is like the hardest hole by far on the course. It is a beautiful par 3. 235 yards downhill, but directly on the coast into a peninsula with cliffs all around it. Like one bad choice there, screwed. The bogey or worse rate is over 31% on that hole. So swings can happen on that hole coming through. If that's, if your guy's out in the lead, be very careful. But if you get yourself above the hole, on some of these short putts, they play super fast, then the wind affects them. If you don't hit them exactly perfectly, it's 3 Jack City, and it's going to be tough for your guys to hold on to the lead, especially because it's a very weak field tournament. That when we take a look through, it's a less than driver course. Off the tee is hard, but it doesn't really matter all that much. Green speeds can play slow, but the players were saying in the wind, they play super fast depending on where you're standing. So there's no consistency because of the wind if it's one of the windier rounds. Now we've seen, just kind of take a look at some of these winning scores over the years. Like you had Campos at -19, Villegas at 24 under, Lucas Herbert snuck one out at -15. Like you're going to have to make birdies to win. Brendan Todd got there at -24, but short hitters, great wedges, putting. That is the common link between all of these winners over the years. So we jump over to try to get the key stats. That's what we're going to have to take a look at here. So let's see what we can rig up here. The field itself is actually pretty good. If you're just looking, I mean, obviously I don't have this, don't have the finalized version of what's going on in Mexico because that tournament has not ended as of the recording that I'm doing right now. But overall, over the past 6 months, let's just shrink it to the past 2 months, see who's doing well. Rico Hoey, Michael Brennan, Pierce and Cody, Fisk, Yu, Lonto, Grayson Sig. But what we really want to find is some of the recent form that carries over from Mexico. We saw that last year, and I don't think it's all that dissimilar, honestly, from the types of players that you wanted in Mexico, albeit that was a par 72. That's a super long course. It's a lot of wedges and putting at the same time because dudes just aren't missing fairways there. And you can miss the fairway here, but you don't even have to take driver out of your bag at this course outside of the par 5s if you really don't want to. So let's go to past 12 months and go to overall proximity, because you'll play it from the fairway and the rough here. We're going to add 50 to 100. We'll go 50 to 100. Add that to our model, and we're going to go 100 to 150. 100 to 150. And then we're going to do the exact same thing, and we're going to go past, let's say, 4 months. It's not that huge of a sample. You're only getting like 20-ish rounds. But again, we're going to go 100 to 150 past 20. 100, 150 past 20 rounds. To just take a look at the types of players that we want here. We're not thinking about driving, so we're going to throw that out. What we're going to do is kind of do a similar thing as well. We're going to go past 4 months with putting. And we're just going to take strokes game putting. We might even want to throw in 3-putt avoidance as well, although that might get a bit trickier. It's a lot like at Riviera and Torrey Pines in that way, at least in my mind, that you can be a good putter and still miss short putts because you're just in completely the wrong spot. And that's really where the wind effects come in here too, because 8,000 square foot greens, wildly undulating greens in Bermuda, is that if your control gets off a little bit because of the wind, you're no longer on the proper level where you need to putt. You leave yourself above the hole, and then that's where the 3 putts come into play, that you're not able to be hitting your second putt from up the hill. You're hitting it from down the hill, and just some of these holes, you don't want to be doing that, put it that way. So we're going to go strokes gained putting last 4 months, SG putt last 4. If you're listening to this on the audio version, you can go over to YouTube or even Spotify. We'll have the video version up there so you can see what I'm doing up on the screen. So we're going to go last 4. Then we're going to take, let's go last 3 years. Historically good putters in the long term. Putting last 3 years, and just throw that in. I just want to get a sense of, listen, you can ride the hot form going in and the types of players that you know to be good. It's not like they're going to be awful. Like Matty Schmidt, as I'm recording this, is in the lead in Mexico. And obviously, when Keith joins the show in a little bit, we'll have the results. I'm just recording this over the weekend to make sure that I can get it in for everyone to get that early type of stuff going. We can also see guys that kind of perform well at this course over time. We're going to go strokes gained, and then we're going to type in Port Royal. If I spell it correctly, I can probably get that on the go. Port Royal, apply it, and we'll go to past 3 years. We'll take an average of these strokes gained. So Campos has been the best player in only his 4 rounds. Sam Ryder, Vince Whaley, and Mark Hubbard have played this really well. So has Villegas. So has Lauer. Patrick Rogers has done pretty well here in his career. So we're just going to take that. It's not going to be weighted all that much. Total, we'll just call it course history. Course history, 3 years, and chuck that in. So now that we've added a few of those, that's how you do it on that. You go to create your model. That'll bring everything up. I've already put my weights in already and generated this model. You can always get it under the expert report tab, but basically I just went 10 all the way down the list. This is a very rudimentary type thing. There are I just want to try to separate certain players to see some of the longer shots or even older guys with this particular set of skills, the old Liam Neeson heads for Bermuda that I want to target. So par 4 birdies or better, 15%, 100 to 150 on both those ranges that I went through, 15%, putting the last 3 years, 15%, everything else at 10%. Make it easy on myself to try to figure it out. You can find my other ones down there. You can find them in the expert reports. I've already brought this one up. So if we just go over and find the results of this one, we can find it right here. We had Michael Brennan, because he has so few rounds that he's going to rate out really well. After that, it's Kuchar, Montgomery, Whaley, Hubbard, Ramey, Paul Peterson is there, Sam Ryder, Andrew Putnam, Matty Schmidt, who has been pretty good at this course over the years. We just you can sort by all of them as well. So course history from the past 3 years that we were looking at: Whaley, Campos, Hubbard, Ryder, Villegas with his win, Justin Lauer. I'd be looking at both these guys again next week, as long as their odds aren't silly. Lipsky might actually be a good shout, having a pretty decent week in Mexico as we speak now. Obviously, Matty Schmidt is winning in Mexico as we speak. We'll see how he turns up, but a top 3 finish here before, coming in with good form. You also have, Seamus Power has a former win here. So these are the course history guys. Let's go with the wedge guys. That's where we want to see this 100 to 150 range, where just so many of the shots are going to be coming from this week. Who are the best players? Someone named Drew Doyle. Don't know who that is. Well, let's learn a little bit more about our main man, Drew Doyle here. Where has he ever played? He has played in 2 tournaments in his life, and he's been cut in both those tournaments. Shout out to you, Drew Doyle. Grayson Sigg, very good from 100 to 150, though. Very terrible at putting from all of his rounds. So Grayson Sigg across the board, but putter hasn't been there. These are the 5 key ones. I just want to see if anyone's green everywhere. Kuchar, really good in all of these. This does seem like a Matt Kuchar jam. Obviously, he's won in Mexico in the past. Can he win in Bermuda? We'll see about that. I know he was a popular pick this week because he's disappointed a little bit. Maybe that's a route to go. Mantasero, very good from these ranges, cannot putt to save his life. And that's what we're seeing right here. You can always view the filters. This is the last 4 months column. This is the past 3 years column, if you were wondering which ones that I was looking at for all of these. But again, you see that the guys who are consistently good with their wedges in the long term and the short term tend to stay that way. You see someone like Max McGreevy has been a lot better over the past 12 months than he's been over the past 4 months. So the left-hand column that you're looking at right now is the past year. This is the past 4 months if you're looking at it. So he's gotten worse. Ditto for Ben Coles, has gotten worse over that time. You can see Lipsky has actually started to get the putter around too, and he's always really good with his wedges. Has played, obviously played on the European Tour, used to some windier conditions, wonkier courses, which this is going to be. Wouldn't hate David Lipsky here. Again, all of this is going to be price sensitive. When I speak to Keith here in a little bit, we'll have the odds to talk about this, so it's not going to be crazy for us to be like, oh yeah, David Lipsky. Oh, it turned out he was 30-1. No, I wanted to bet him at 100-1. So just keep that in mind as we're going through this right now. Montgomery in the short term has been bad with his wedges, historically very good and the best putter in the field. Terrible off the tee, but that might not be the biggest deal. Here, Paul Peterson rates out really well, almost across the board in everything, be it par fours, top tens, and the wedge range and putting. So Paul Peterson, we most definitely going to have to pay attention to this week. We're going to have to pay attention to Eric Cole as well, although if he has another good week, he had a very good Friday with me having money on him in Mexico. If he just goes nuclear and wins or just comes inside the top five, which would be great considering I have a top five bet on him as well, that if we can have Eric Cole like at a 40-1, 50-1 price tag, wouldn't hate that. Would hate some of the other stuff because he can putt as well. I want to put, so Paul Peterson, David Lipsky, Eric Cole. These are the types of names. Matt Kuchar is another one that we can go with. Yeah, Takumi Kanaya is probably another name that we can throw him in. Seamus Powers won this tournament before, and you can kind of see why. Here's what he's done well. He hits his wedges really well from in close, mid-range, and historically has been a better putter than he has been lately. That's a route that we want to take a look at as well. Just try to find green across the board here. Pavon has been pretty good at all this stuff. I believe he ended up making the cut. He had a pretty nice Friday in Mexico. We'll see if he can continue that. The short-term putting for Justin Lauer hasn't been good, but the long-term obviously is, and he rates out really well elsewhere, so we'll throw him onto the list. Ben Silverman is another guy that wedges and putting are the only things that he does well. So again, we'll throw him on. Wacky Valimaki, first-round leader in Mexico this week. Again, if it's a putting and wedge competition, he can get away with that as long as he can spray it off the tee, and he might just not have to hit as many drivers here, so that could help him out a ton. I'll probably go with Nico as well. He ended up going off at 45-1 in Mexico this week. I hesitated on it. He did make the cut. It doesn't look like he's going to win, so I'm not sweating it too much, but the shorter events, he's won in the Caribbean before. And if it comes down to par four scoring, take out your wedges, make some birdies, that is a Nico Echeverria type competition that I'm looking for. Celinda's been pretty good. Chandler Phillips. Now we're getting to the very bottom of this field. Let's take a look at that long-term putting just to see a few guys who might pop here. Putnam pops almost immediately. Wedges, long-term putting. The short-term putting's been bad, but in the long term, it's been really good. Brant Snedeker is another one. The wedges haven't been good, but the short-term wedges should be pretty decent with Snedeker, but we know that he putts the lights out. I went to him this week. He ended up missing the cut by a stroke. Hopefully we can go to him again at triple digits next week. That's the spot where I would want to be. Kuchar obviously rates out great, probably better than anyone else between wedges and long-term putting. If any player in this field came second in those power rankings that I looked at. Eric Cole is obviously up there. Who's that? Sami Valimaki rates out great. Lauer rates out great. Thorbjorn Olesen again is going to be in this field, has been hitting his wedges over the short term really, really well versus the long term. But again, another European Tour player we can get behind. He went off at 28-1 this week in Mexico. We'll see what his odds end up being. If he's 30-1 or beyond, then I can probably get in because the long-term putting and the short-term putting for him has been really, really good. Kanaya is another one on that list. So if we just think about the favorites that we've already went to. So if we just go back, now we can go back to the rabbit hole. We can refresh the page. We can start sharing this right now and just take a look at the favorites. We favorited 13 players. Obviously, we're not going to bet all of them, but this is the short list that I want to see. I'm going to merge this with recent form from what we saw in Mexico. Guys that played well in Mexico, that has translated to Bermuda. So if we can take a look at that. If you did want to see my model and then tweak it around, if you wanted expert models, you can find mine up there, Bermuda V1. I know that people have always wanted to be able to do that, so now you can do that at the rabbit hole. So Olesen, Kuchar, Kanaya, Nico, Ben Silverman. Probably don't love Ben Silverman, but here we are. Paul Peterson, Snedeker, Putnam, Cole, Valimaki, the similar types of players. Shorter players, more accurate players, great with wedges, can make a ton of putts and score on par fours. That's the route that I'm taking. After the break, we'll see if my main man from readtheline.com, Keith Stewart, agrees with me or disagrees with me. Hopefully, we can find some consensus because that worked out really well, at least with Nick Dunlap in the first round. 100-1, even after the chop in a 50-1 top 5 for us. We did that on the show last week. We talked it through. Hopefully, we can find someone again in Bermuda. Stay tuned. Somewhat surprisingly, I actually take tailgating very seriously. Grill fired up, cooler packed, and yeah, I'm the guy everyone counts on for the food. Whether that's my home barbecues, birthdays, tailgating, doesn't matter what it is, Pat Mayo is always relied upon for bringing the food. That's why I go with Omaha Steaks, the official sponsor of tailgating. They've been America's original butcher for over a century, and everything they send is top-notch, perfectly aged steaks, juicy burgers, those thick, deli-style franks, all delivered directly to your door. I tossed the ribeyes on the grill last weekend. Crazy tender, amazing flavor, and you can taste the quality. There's no off-season for flavor here. Make your next game day delicious with Omaha Steaks. Just head to omahasteaks.com and use promo code MAYO at checkout for $35 off your order. That's omahasteaks.com. Promo code MAYO. Terms apply. See site for details. Whether you like golf, whether you like fantasy, or you just enjoy lots of money, starting the second week of January, the race for the Mayo Cup is on. Join thousands of fantasy players at fantasygolfchampionships.com for your shot at over $1 million in prizes, including the $110,000 first place prize. And this isn't like those giant contests where it goes from $110 to $20. No, everyone who finishes inside the top 250 this year wins at least 4 figures. Everyone inside the top 20 gets 5 figures. And it's simple. Takes 10 seconds a week. You pick one player per week. You can use that guy once all season long. Even if you know nothing about golf, you can still play in this and try to win the grand prize. Sign up now at fantasygolfchampionships.com or hit the description and just use the link. The race for the Mayo Cup is on.
Welcome back, breaking down the Butterfield Bermuda odds. All our odds are powered by CoolBet.com. If you're in Canada, outside of Ontario, use CoolBet. Fastest payouts in the biz and usually the best odds on golf as well. Of a PME exclusive bet that gets boosted by like 20 points over there last week. Did Nick Taylor last week. Keith, that didn't really turn out that well.
Well, you know what? We talked a lot about the two Canadians, Hadwin and Taylor. Hadwin showed up a little bit more than Taylor did. Obviously, he was down there enjoying his Sony win and his 2-year card there on the PGA Tour. Little resort trip down from Canada went well for him, I'm sure, off the golf course. So sorry about the early lean there.
I would do it again anytime that it was the whole point. Like, he had no form coming in whatsoever, and I ended up getting him at 60-1. That anytime you're going to get him like over 40-1 in a tournament like this, I think it's worth taking the stab because he can win out of nowhere. We've seen that before.
Oh, the guy's a proven winner. A couple of years ago, I was at WMPO and watched him win in that playoff and just make putt after putt after putt coming down 18. I was like, man, this guy's an absolute dog. You got to keep an eye on that. And when his odds creep up, he is definitely one of those people that I always talk about win equity. I was like, who down here could actually win? You know, we had the Nick Dunlap conversation last week. We were talking about some other randos down there. And I'm like, Nick Dunlap's won twice. You start to put that guy in the hunt and he gets excited rather than nervous. So Nick Taylor, I mean, I don't begrudge the pick whatsoever. I think it's a good idea. It just goes to prove that sometimes in the fall, people show up to the resorts for different reasons.
For sure. And listen, he is in the Masters next year. He finished top 30 in the FedEx Cup. Like, he's good. Beyond his win at the Sony, keeping his card, he is in every signature event. So maybe I should have factored that in. But I really don't feel like, listen, the intentions might be different because we talk about this with Napa too. And guys just kind of take their wives up to Napa. Like, the good players are like, yeah, this is going to be a great weekend. We can play some golf. We can go to Napa. Our wives will love it. But I still don't think once they get inside the ropes that like they're not trying to win.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, that's a very good point because that's certainly not what I'm trying to say. It's just like, how hard did the guy work coming into it? Yeah. You know, how much is he willing to grind? I mean, obviously Ben Griffin was in it to win it from the beginning, and he's been working even though he's been off for a number of weeks since the Ryder Cup. So I still agree with you though. Like, Nick Taylor is a winner. that guy is going to continue to win, probably once every 18 months on tour. And that's something you got to pay attention to, because if you find a good course fit, then he's a guy to jump on.
So, do you agree with this assessment of I built a very specific model on the rabbit hole, and I want to see if you would want to make any tweaks to this? I basically just hammered down on par 4 scoring, but mainly 50 to 100 at a slightly lower amount, 100 to 150 at a much higher amount, both short term and long term, and then putting splits over the last 3 months and the last 3 years at the same time, and then short game, like around the green. I don't think that you need to hit the ball very far at Port Royal. It's one of the if I don't know if it's shorter than Pebble Beach, but it might be. It's a par 71 at the same time. Like, you just look at the guys who play well here. It's great wedge players, great putters, and guys who scramble if it gets really windy out.
Well, I think it's always windy there. So I think what we're going to do today that's going to be extremely successful is that I keep notes when I go out on tour, and I'm writing things down all the time. And one of the important things is who hits the ball high and who hits the ball low. And it's very difficult to understand who does that if you're not out there watching. So when you run a model like that, I think that that's great. I'm going to do the same sort of thing. But then what I do is I take it a second level and I look at one of my handwritten sheets here and I go, okay, now who are the guys I know that hit it low or mid trajectory? And then there at Bermuda, I'm also looking for guys that kind of tend to hit it more left to right off the tee, because 9 of the 14 tee shots kind of bend that way. They kind of move that way. And you have to remember too that there's like 10 crosswind holes there, and the wind's coming off the west this week, and this sits on the west coast of Bermuda. So it's going to be very wind affected this week. So I try to take all those factors into play. I mean, like I can't just forget my PGA roots, right? Like I'm always thinking about playability, the up and down on the golf course. Like I've played this golf course before. Like it always seems like whenever there's a crosswind shot or some kind of like really challenging shot, you're uphill hitting to a downhill target, whether it be the green or the fairway. And in this particular case, I'm definitely looking for guys, especially off the tee and with those wedges, that can hit the ball low and are comfortable hitting the ball low. This is not the week to switch. This is the week to have guys that fit and then roll with them.
So here are using the rabbit hole. This is under the miscellaneous metrics category. If you want to go do it, I've sorted it by the past year of rounds. Players who have the lowest apex height of any players. Do you know who number 1 is of any player in the field in Bermuda this week?
Oh boy.
He's a guy who popped up on my in the walkthrough as well. I didn't put this up in the research because I actually hadn't considered that, but looking at it right now, Takumi Kanaya rates out number 1.
That makes sense. I was going to guess, him or Seamus.
Seamus is right there towards the bottom. Putnam, Victor Perez, David Skins.
Perez. I was going to say Perez is another one.
Adam Svensson and Matteo Montesero are very, very low as well.
Yeah, so Montesero is a great long iron player, which you need here because you have those 3 long par 3s and you have the approachable par 5. So that's like 6 very high leverage shots that with a long iron that you want to pay attention to. And you want to be able to hit those low and controlled. But Mateo's just not been great lately. But that type of player, now that what you're doing there is exactly what you need to do to find the right guy. So recent form is great, but we want the recent form of the guys that hit it low.
Yeah, Cool Bet's own Adam Svensson. Maybe he can get himself a win. Although you don't get into the Masters anymore. I was rooting for him to get into the Masters because Cool Bet's like, hey, if Adam Svensson makes the Masters, we get all these Masters tickets. I'm like, we'll bring you. I was like, perfect. Let's go do that. So we can try to root for Adam Svensson. Maybe he can move up high enough in the world to get himself in. But it's funny, like just even to search it by past performance, just looking at this apex height, you have Camilo Villegas, who is like 7th on this list. Obviously, he won here 2 years ago. Seamus Powers, 13th of the lowest ball flight. He was the winner here 3 years ago. Lonto Griffin is 2 spots ahead of him at 11. He was runner-up to Seamus Power here. So I think we're onto something here. Vince Whaley is another one. And my main man, so one of the bets that I made 2 very early this morning, both at 200 to 1, just because I thought the odds were off.
Boy.
One of them was Paul Peterson. So he's down here a little bit, not as much as some other people. But I just found it very interesting with him that long term, he rates out exactly what you would want to do at this course. Like he can't really drive the ball for any power whatsoever. Very efficient with his wedges. A pretty good putter, good short game, but it's just his driving that lets him down. Now, as we spoke about last week, just because driving isn't the most important thing, you can still be bad and drive yourself out of a tournament. That is completely acceptable and things that happen. But I thought at 200 to 1, he's been lingering around enough. I think that like a minus 16 to 20 score is usually pretty good for him. And if he can continue to hit his wedges well, he's sort of like discount Eric Cole right now.
Well, I mean, you're right on the right path as far as playability goes. What average winning score is probably going to be somewhere around 16, 17 under par, cut line -2 over the 6 editions that we've had of this event. I do think though, I get the lack of driving acumen necessary in order to compete and contend here. But at the end of the day, I do feel like you have to hit specific targets off the tee. Yes, it's wide open. Yes, there's less of a penalty. But having played the golf course, like you have to put yourself in position in order to score. And if the wind is blowing 20 plus miles an hour, which it will on all 4 afternoons, if not more, then somebody who doesn't really control the ball well off the tee, I guess that's why they're 200 to 1. I get that. But I just have a tough time. All I'm saying is just be careful down that road. Right?
So
I think you're going to need some level of acumen off the tee.
So the one thing I would push back on that with Peterson, it's not really the accuracy that's the problem for him. He's above average accuracy player. He just has no power to speak.
Well, that'll work out. I mean, because if Brian Gay's not walking through that door, then maybe Paul Peterson can.
Well, there's a few guys like that this week. So let's jump into the very top of the odds board. Do you think this is a tournament where you would want to go to the top?
The very top, no.
But just in general, I mean, I know they've squeezed a lot of guys under 40 to 1 this week. So obviously someone from that range, or 2 guys, 3 guys. But I just feel like fading the overwhelming favorites in a field like this where there's legitimately no, well, like even last week, you had Spawn and Griffin. They were clearly a better talent than everyone else in the field. And then it dropped off to like Thorbjornsen, who's like, yeah, he's great and everything. But like, let's see the guy like actually win something first before backing him at an elite price. Like they deserve their elite price. The guys who are in the field this week at the top of the board, like they're the favorites because like they're good, but like Rico Hoey is 60 to 1 and the 16 to 1 in the favorite in what might amount to be a putting competition. I don't know if I really want to back Rico to get his first win at 16 to 1.
Yeah, I mean the highest guy ranked in the official World Golf, list is Brennan, right? I mean, like weeks ago, the guy we didn't even know who he was, right? He wins Utah, and now he's the lowest ranked player in the field. I have a tough time, other than the guys that I've targeted in like the high 20s, low 30s, and there's few and far between. Just because a guy has played well, and the book has to watch their liability against those people, doesn't necessarily suddenly trigger me. That I'm like, oh well, geez, like he's going to push through in this field. Again, I'll go back to things like win equity and guys that we know have been kind of proven. I mean, I know you could push back with Rafael Campos and other guys that have come through here, but at the end of the day, I think if you have the skill set right, if you have, I'm not on the favorites. Sorry.
Yeah, it's tough because a lot of them suck at putting, which is like, have we ever seen anyone here who's not a good putter, like historically good putter?
That won?
Yeah.
No, I mean, Lucas Herbert, great putter. Brian Gay, great putter. Villegas, throughout his career has been able to putt very well on Bermuda. And I mean, I know we're going to Bermuda and I know I'm wearing pink, but the point is like, you have to be a really, really good Bermuda grass putter. And I think that it's almost like to a level out there when you play, it's so grainy and it's so seaside that it's very much like playing down at Corrales or playing out there where we just were, where they're on Paspalum. It's just like a super grainy surface. And you have to be very experienced on playing that style of grass with the flat stick.
So how would you try to contextualize that then? If I was to run something to look up all Bermuda putting, all Bermuda grass greens are not created equally. Like there's a lot of like the POA overseed that we've seen during the Florida swing recently, when that used to be just qualified as Bermuda. Now it's not. It's Bermuda / POA, or even they're just calling it POA in that sense because it's so early in the year and stuff hasn't developed yet. I know these greens are technically slow, but from what I've noticed, like going back, I went and watched every round from the past 3 years over the weekend just to get a good sense because it's getting cold here. If I can watch anything that looks warm on TV, I need to go do it. That if you get above the hole here and it starts getting windy, those putts get real slick very quickly.
Well, I mean, just let's go back a week ago, right? The greens were how big? About 8,000 square feet. How big are they this week? About 8,000 square feet. And why? Why were the fairways so wide last week? These are resort courses that are very wind affected. So you have to give people large landing areas. So when you and I go play, that we're not hitting the ball into the desert 24/7, or in this particular case over there in Bermuda, that you're hitting it like just off the planet. And you have these large putting surfaces that have these different quadrants, and they're very sloped over there because Bermuda is the top of a volcano. I mean, it's a mountain. So like you have to have putters that are very good at reading Bermuda grain, but then also good at playing, slopey surfaces with a ton of Bermuda, and that, have a very good three putt frequency or non three putt frequency ability.
Paul Peterson, top 10 in three putt avoidance and fourth in
Ooh.
strokes game putting over the past 3 years, by the way.
Oh, I mean, you can keep riding the Paul Peterson train. I'm going to let you for sure.
I appreciate that. So I've sorted past 4 years, and the filters I put in were Bermuda and Pass Palom. Would that make sense to you?
Yes, for
Okay.
sure.
So let's
Yeah,
do that. Average per round on those right now. It's Frankie Sappin III, Taylor Montgomery, Mason Anderson, Andrew Putnam. You're going to hear a lot of Andrew Putnam pop up in the show. He's going to end up being a bet for me. Bo Hostler, Ben Silverman, Nico Echeverria, Eric Cole, Sammy Valimaki, Takumi Kanaya pops up on that list as well. Vince Whaley, Brant Snedeker, Blades Brown, Paul Peterson. Those are your outside of other guys like Justin Hastings and Nicholas Norgard with very few rounds on the surface. And Matty Schmidt is the other one coming off another good week. He was third here 2 years ago. It's funny because I don't like his skill set for this course, but he has shown a weird propensity, although last week notwithstanding. But it didn't feel like last week you actually needed to have a lot of distance, did you? Because you just saw a lot of short hitters up there.
Oh, definitely not. Last week, that was the big, pundit line that we were pushing against, was that everyone's like, oh, this is a bomber's paradise at 60-yard wides. And then you look at those leaderboards, and over time, it was the Eric Coles and the Matt Kuchars of the world and the Carson Youngs. And I mean, none of those guys are guys that were like, take your breath away with the driver. So it's a very similar skill set this week when it comes down to it. And, we've seen that before. Vajegas, runner up a couple years ago, then came here and won. A guy like Justin Lauer can, play well at both style of places. Kuchar hasn't been here before, or if he was, it was years ago. And, not a lot of experience here, but you could see his skill set being such a good wedge player, such a good putter, being very adaptable here. He tends to hit the ball a little higher off the tee, so we're not a big fan of that. But overall, you could definitely see a lot of comparisons between the two, especially when it comes to the greens.
Matty,
The graininess.
So to go back to that, Matty Schmidt, he was T8 a week ago. Obviously T3 here a few years ago, and go and look where he spiked the most. It's either at shorter courses this year or on those slow surfaces. He was second. He lost in the playoff at Colonial. He was T9 in Corrales. He was T7 at Myrtle Beach. He was T6 in Puerto Rico. The problem is his odds that I don't like whatsoever. Like, would you want to back Matty Schmidt at 30-1?
Well, I'm gonna send it back to you because this is the question that I had in my mind. He's sitting there right next to Nico, and I love Nico in this situation.
Me too.
So it's like, okay, I can't go with both of these guys.
Well, you could go with both these guys.
I could, but Schmid's wedge game, it gives me pause. And I do like him on the longer par threes. I do like his ball flight. He checks all those boxes. But I'm kind of like in that mode where sometimes there's just like 4 or 5 names or 2 or 3 names, and you break it down. You have to make a decision between the two guys. And I feel like Nico, a proven winner, also a very, very good putter on Bermuda, playing well right now, 14th last week. In the field, he's got that putter approach combination that we're looking for on Bermuda grass. So right around that 30 number, I'm going to lean towards Nico over Matty, but there are other uses for Matty Schmidt in this event, and I think that he will have a very good week.
So, yeah, DFS, top 10, whatever it might be. The issue with Nico at the moment is that since we've started this show, his odds have absolutely plummeted because I think that everyone sees what me and you both saw. Like, he opened at 33-1 this morning. The best number available on him currently as we speak is 25-1, and those are at, like, illegal books.
Yeah, I mean, and you'd want to bet that as soon as you could.
So he's going to end up being 18-1 by the time he's going. I think that Nico will end up being the betting favorite by the time we get to Wednesday.
I can't disagree. I mean, I 100% agree with that.
But like, would you want to? So if the choice was then Nico at 22 or Matty Schmidt at 30, does that change? Do those 8 points? Because it's a lot of value. Like if you rate them close to the same, and granted, like Nico better, as I think we both do, those 8 points do a lot of heavy lifting.
They do.
Or do you say, hey, I think that Nico is just going to win, so I'm going to bet him at what I think is a good number?
Well, you know what? You pushed back on me last week because I started talking about placements and other things, and I said, you know what? And as I was thinking about the show afterwards, it was like, we're here to pick winners, right? I think Nico can win this week.
Okay.
So I'm gonna ride that horse. And although I would love the number to be better, if I wasn't doing this show right now, then I would be betting it if I was listening to you saying like this number is dropping, and I wouldn't wait for it because it probably won't stabilize until it goes to its lowest point versus a lot of other people where numbers sometimes they go low, then they go high because they'll float a little bit till water finds its level. But I think Nico is, when people start to really look at the numbers, Nico's going to drop to the point where they're going to figure out that he's a better option this week than Rico, who's at the top of the board.
So the guy I told you that I was betting before the show at the number that I got him at, I'm glad that I did because he just dropped too on the odds screen just out of nowhere. So here's everyone below 40-1. Kevin Yu, Rico Hoey, Thorbjorn Olesen. They're like 18, 20, 22, whatever it might be. Then it's Nico, Patrick Rogers, Piss, and Cootie. Chad Ramey coming off a good week. Jesper Svensson, Matt Wallace, Matty Schmidt, Vince Whaley, Matt Kuchar, Michael Brennan, Alex Smalley, Sam Stevens, Mark Hubbard. That is the entire collection of players 40-1 and below. There are 3 players in that group that I really like. I like Vince Whaley enough. I'm not going to bet Vince Whaley at 30-1. That's just never happening. So we can kind of cross him off. It's Nico. Actually, there's 4, but I can't get to Olesen at this number unless he drops either. I like Olesen in these conditions. I do not like him at 22-1. Nico, Schmidt, and Kuchar. And I bet Kuchar 2 minutes before the show started, briefly chatting with you at 37-1.
I bet Matt Kuchar last week. This is definitely one of those places. Certainly Sea Island next week, as long as he's not entertaining too many people down there at home. This is the Kuchar time of year, and when he's rolling, these are the golf course that perfectly suit his game. Bermuda grass putting, tons and tons of putting,
wedges, wind, short game, accuracy. Like doesn't when you take a look at the former winners, doesn't he seem like when you go back and look at the past 6 champions of last year, and you take a look at the names that are already past champions, doesn't Matt Kuchar fit in seamlessly with those guys?
He does. The only downside that gives me pause on Matt this week versus last week is that he tends to hit the ball high off the tee. He tends to hit the ball a little bit higher with his longer irons. He gets a little scoopy with it. So So if the wind starts really blowing, then he's going to have to really rely on that putter and that short game, which is world-class in this field, top 5 guy in this field. I just think that it would be better if he could hit the ball a little bit lower off the tee. He is a left to right guy. But that being said, he's a veteran who knows how to score and know how to win against a field of guys that, even if he's head-to-head on Sunday against Nico, I would still give the edge to Matt Kuchar.
Cooch is, of the players in this field, I think it's because we have such an influx of Corn Ferry guys and so many of the younger players. He's actually in the top 20% and lowest ball flight in this field now.
Well, that's a good thing then.
Yeah. It's somewhat surprising because you have, when you go to the bottom of who hits the ball the highest, Ricky Castillo, Frankie Sappin, Hayden Springer, Kevin Velo. Blades Brown is another guy I actually bet this week at 200-1 for those placements. I don't have a lot of expectation for Blades Browns, but there's one thing that I do know about Blades Brown. He loves birdies. He's going to make a lot of birdies. He might make a triple bogey along with it, but he's going to make a ton of birdies.
Yeah, and this is a birdie to bogey ratio place. You can't lose sight of strokes gained around the green or scrambling. I know there's 80 something bunkers. I'm not too worried about the bunkers, in bunker play, but overall, don't give up on the scrambling aspect of this, especially, people always think about scrambling. I say this all the time, sometimes at the risk of being redundant. Scrambling just doesn't mean saving par. When you have these short par 5s and some of these short par 4s and these guys get it within 30, 20, 15 yards of the green, you have to score. And that's still a scrambling statistic. A guy that's really good around the green is more often than not going to get up and down from 15 yards in order to make birdie on that par 5. And that might be where there's more weight this week on that skill set than there is in saving pars on, a missed green.
What are the runoff areas? Like what is the around the green terrain at this course? Is it mainly shaved off areas? Is it just like a little bit of rough? Like from the last time that you played it, what do you remember?
Shaved off areas into heavy Bermuda rough.
Like
So,
like penal Bermuda rough, or like you can still get it up and down?
oh no, resort.
Okay.
Resort, yeah, it's not very penal. No, the biggest problem the guys will have is if they miss, not around the green, it's not terribly difficult because it's not super deep, but off the tee is that they can't control spin. So when they're hitting into the greens, and although it's supposed to rain this weekend, and it's supposed to, I think it's supposed to either rain tonight or tomorrow out there. When I looked at the forecast, like it'll stay very dry out there. That golf course will drain very, very well because of where it is. And if you don't have the ability to control the spin of the golf ball out of the Bermuda rough, that's going to cause you to miss a couple of greens and get up and down. But around the green, getting up and down, not the hardest place in the world. No.
So I'm going to go back and readjust these. I'm going to add in, I wonder if I can add in negative value. Can I do that? I can. Okay, this is great. So I'm going to add in, I'm going to readjust. I'm going to save this. If you're a sub to betspertsgolf.com under the rabbit hole, you can find this in my expert rankings. I just want to quickly rig this one up. It's a slight variation of the one that I just put in, but we're going to go with, I have top 10 percentage in here. Par 4 birdies are better at 10%. Then we're going to go 10% for like the wedge ranges, long and short term, because I think that's going to help me out a lot here. Putting, Bermuda putting, course history at this course. We'll go and just try to really kind of pump these ones up. We'll go 15 around the green, 15 for par 4s, go 15 on putting, 15 on putting. And I added in apex height at minus 10% in the model. So the guys that hit it the highest are going to be penalized within this model. So I'm going to call this Bermuda V2 Mayo, and under the expert reports, you can find this one. If you want to go see what I'm looking at right now, you can follow along with me just by clicking that button. Kuchar, Montgomery, Vince Whaley, Mark Hubbard, Paul Peterson, Michael Brennan, Chad Ramey, Eric Cole, Andrew Putnam are your top 10 players in this model.
And a lot of those check out from my notes as far as trajectory goes.
And then you still have Brant Snedeker, Takumi Kanaya is very high, Ben Silverman, Kane, David Lipsky. I like Lipsky this week. I don't like his odds as much, and the fact that he can't putt, real problem. But he's played in a lot. Like I like not necessarily Euros, but guys with a little bit of either veteran experience or DP World Tour experience at this location, because I think this doesn't necessarily mimic a lot of DP World Tour courses, but I feel like the elements do that. Just sometimes you're playing in Oman and it's just going to be 30 miles per hour all the time.
Absolutely. These are way more European style conditions that those guys grew up on than it is American style. There's no doubt about it. And there's a ton of elevation changes here. I mentioned that earlier. You're sitting on the rim of a mountain, and these guys are going to go up and down all day. And the guys that are used to playing that type of golf, I mean, we play a lot of flat golf courses on the PGA Tour. These guys over on the DP World Tour, they're playing in Switzerland. They're playing all over the place, and they're always playing it, what seems like, in pretty challenging conditions.
So to swing it back a little bit, the four that I mentioned, Olesen, Nico, Matty Schmidt, and Kuchar. I'm in on Kuchar already, 37-1. For you, of those three, it would be Nico, no questions asked?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm going to highlight Nico. I'll see if I get there. You can I'll have my article up on betspertsgolf.com later on Monday afternoon, and I'll have the final cheat sheet available in my newsletter and up on BetSperts Golf and in Golf Digest in the column that we do together up on Wednesday, just to finalize everything. You don't need to make every decision on a Monday morning, Keith, do you?
No, definitely not. I mean, that's why Read the Line is a newsletter, free or paid, comes out at 9 a.m. on Wednesday mornings. You really have to see things kind of play out. We want to get closer for the weather. We also want to get closer when I'm on site. I like to watch guys practice and just see how they're doing.
You're not going to be in Bermuda this week, though.
No, unfortunately. I will be in Sea Island next week, though, which will be after we tape the show. So, the evolution of what we talk about on Monday will be very important to start the week. But by the time I put something in print on Wednesday, it'll definitely change and somehow kind of refine itself, because I will have seen all of the players for a day and a half getting ready for both golf courses down there at Sea Island.
The only other player from this top end that I really have interest in, like if you want to bet Patrick Rogers at 27-1, I bet the dude at 90-1 last week. I don't usually like to do that, of going from 90-1 to 27-1 when the guy had a good tournament, but he he contended, but not really. He had no chance to win last week going into the final round, unless he shot a 58 and shot 14 under or something insane. Like I guess it wouldn't be, it would be 14 under. That's what he would have needed to shoot to win on Sunday. That wasn't going to happen, but he has the right skills for here. Granted, but Matt Wallace at 30-1 after just kind of speaking through European Tour experience, lower ball flight, great short game, can kind of fill it up putting when necessary, a bit of a grinder, but he's won on Paspalum before. He's won in the Caribbean, like outside of the continental U.S. on the PGA Tour. Could be a look for him, but he would still be situated behind those other guys.
Matt Wallace is definitely one of those guys that you love on a longer Birdie Fest golf course.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
Like
some of his
Corrales.
superpower. Yeah, I think some of his superpower gets mitigated when you go to an event like this. There are certain things that he does, like score, like putt, but overall, I like Matt when you could take him on a little bit longer track, and his driver gives him much more of an advantage over some of the players here. I mean, you look at Matt Kuchar, and we talked a lot about Eric Cole last week. Is Eric Cole like a poor man's Matt Kuchar because he hasn't won in his career? I mean, there's another skill set, a guy that can really, really putt Bermuda, can make a ton of birdies, can get up and down from a phone booth, and can hit his wedges really, really close and with decent trajectory. Guy's also a draw player, so he could probably flight the ball pretty well. He tends to hit it a little higher off the tee than we would like this week, but everything else checks a lot of boxes.
So one of the reasons, unless these guys fall, like if all of a sudden Schmidt is 40, like I probably do end up going in on that if he's going to be double the odds of what Nico is. And one of my hesitations of firing on Nico at 24-1, the best number that I can find right now, is that I actually like this next range a little bit. Not necessarily like better as in they're better players, but I think they're about even and they have double the odds. Guys I'm talking about are like Eric Cole at 45. Valimaki at 45, Takumi Kanaya at 50, who we just spoke about. Victor Perez is right there. Hell, Carson Young, I mean, if you could just pick him to come in second place, he basically does it at every one of these Caribbean events.
I tell you what, if Sam didn't win at Sedgefield, or not Sam, if Cam didn't win at Sedgefield, right, all the Youngs would have been known for being bridesmaids, right?
This is it. But now he's an elite player, so we don't have to worry about Cam Young anymore.
I think we could still worry about Cam Young, but I think Cam Young will actually, as a quick tangent, I think that'll be a good launching point for him. I think the Ryder Cup will do much for him like it did for Scotty years ago. I don't think Cam's going to win 20 times in 3 years, but I think that's a good thing for him. But getting back to the Carson Youngs and the Coles and that range, don't be surprised if Slammin' Sammy Valimaki comes up and after a runner-up like Villegas a couple years ago wins Bermuda, because Valimaki is one of those guys that certainly has the approach acumen and he's a good putter. And he's got this like little thing where he's really good on long par threes. And you've got 3 of them this week that are extremely challenging that you just got to work your way through. Of the different par categories, the par threes this week, even with the short one, they play almost a half a stroke over par by the field. So you've got to get through those and not be making bogeys there every single day when guys are shooting what the average stroke around. Like if you want to win, you got to shoot about 4 under per day here.
I like Valimaki as well. Is he just an instant click every time they go to Mexico now? Because he was great at Vedanta. He's been great now at the Worldwide Technologies. I thought that was interesting. Very good wind player as well for someone who hits the ball actually very high in the air. But everything else, like when I clicked on the model to figure out like where Valimaki sits, he's 29th because his apex height is now hurting him, and his around the green play is just not very good. But putting top 20, wedges top 10. Top 10 percentage of anyone on the field, top 10. He's top 20 in par 4 scoring. Kind of seems perfect for here. Can you tell me? I wrote about it as sort of like a data-driven type thing in the column about number 16, which is a very difficult par 3. What's that like standing on that tee box?
Well, you've got North Carolina to your left, and then you've got the island to your right. It's I didn't play it at 235, and the wind, fortunately, is generally blowing off the water, so it's blowing the ball towards the land. But the problem is then if you miss the green to the right, there's an uphill section there, and then you're almost like chipping downhill towards a green that's going towards a cliff towards the Atlantic Ocean. So it's a tight spot. And for guys that fade the ball with their long irons, you've got to start it on like the edge of the island, for lack of a better term, and let that thing kind of float in. Again, you'd want to favor the guys that hit their 6 irons from 200 yards, their 5 irons nice and low with a piercing trajectory. But I mean, yeah, it's yeah, it's a golf shot. That's for sure. I mean, you got to swing and just hope for the best.
It's the hard. It plays as the hardest hole on the course as well for
And
reference.
it is. It's extremely hard.
Not that, but weirdly, not that many double bogeys on that hole. Just a lot of regular 28% bogey rate, 3% double or worse rate, which frankly surprised me because the ocean is there to hit into.
Well, okay, so the reason for that is that all these guys, they're very good. So
Yes.
they're all going to miss it to the right edge of the green. They're all going to miss it in the same spot. And then a certain amount just don't get up and down because they're just not good enough to do that. But they're all going to miss it in the same exact spot. They're going to miss it short right of that green where like the fairway kind of mow area is. And then they're going to try to get up and down from there. If they have to go after the pin, then so be it. But they were only going to do that on Sunday afternoon if they have to do it. Otherwise, they're just looking at that hole as I'm going to toss this thing towards the right side of the green. If I miss the green to the right, I'll get up and down and I'll move on to 17 and I'll make a birdie or an eagle there.
The only two bets that I've made inside of 100 to 1, Matt Kuchar at 37, and I bet Justin Lauer at 60 to 1 with an each way to the top 5 as well. He's played this course 4 times. He's never finished outside of the top 20. And I can't remember if it was, I think it was last year that he gagged it away by 3 putting twice from 2 feet.
I mean, Justin Lauer is a thing here, and Ben Griffin used to be a thing here. So maybe that's the next stage of his career.
Yeah, he chips, he putts, he has above average accuracy. The wedges are good. He makes pretty smart decisions most of the time. Do you think it was more wind affected, his putting problems last year, or the fact that he was winning the tournament on Sunday and it just got to him?
Oh, I definitely think winning the tournament is a real factor for a lot of these guys, And again, we don't really touch upon this much, but we've got 2 tournaments left to get in the top 100. And where does Lauer sit? He's at 108. So he knows he plays well here. He knows that if he has a top 10, that he's going to get inside that top 100 for the FedEx Cup and then get his card for next year. So there's all layers to that onion of pressure. And, you like to think, oh, geez, with his history here, he's going to do very well. He will contend and everything. But come Sunday afternoon with 5 holes to go, that's a lot that he's thinking about. That when he gets on that 16th hole, I can't make double bogey here and fall outside the top 10 because I need these points in order to secure my card for next year versus a guy that's just going for broke on Sunday afternoon.
So those are the only 2 guys that I got. And so I can add a bunch of people here. So I want to get your take on the 5 guys that I mentioned in that 45 to 55 to 1 area that I like. Like Theegala's playing in this tournament. Don't really want to play old wild Theegala off the tee at this tournament. Maybe he just shows up and is clearly the best player here. I'm going to bet against that. When we play the don't pass line on Sahith Theegala. But Eric Cole, Valimaki, Kanaya, Carson Young, and Victor Perez. 2 of those 5 guys. Which 2 do you like?
Oh boy, certainly Valimaki first.
Okay.
And then
So Valimaki's a bet then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Perez and Cole are interesting to me. And I look at those 2 guys and, we had a question about this last week. It was Perez and I can't remember who the other guy was. And it was like, Perez is just a much better player than the player that you brought up last week. But geez, I mean, this golf course certainly fits Eric Cole. Shorter hitter, doesn't have to depend on his driver, puts the ball in play, wedges the place to death, makes a ton of birdies, can get up and down from anywhere. Obviously playing well right now. Between those 2, in that list of guys there, I would be Valimaki first and Cole second. And I'm sure I'll dabble with Perez in some form, but I didn't like the fact that he got in the heat last week down in Mexico, and then he kind of shriveled really, really quick. So, and Cole didn't. Cole tends to play better as rounds go on. They're both really good Bermuda grass putters. But I'll go Valimaki Cole. Got to make decisions, right?
So I'm in on Valimaki at 45 to 1. I've just placed that bet. Anyone from outside 100 to 1 or anyone else like from 50 to 1 and beyond? Because I had a few names. I mentioned the 2, Paul Peterson and Blades Brown. They're more like fun coupons. At 200 to 1, if they can come inside the top 8, like it more than pays. Like it's like 3x my money that I'll invest in the entire tournament. If those guys, just one of those guys finishes inside the top 8, I'll probably play Peterson first round leader as well. I'll do more in-depth first round research a little bit later on, but I think I have the guys that I want. The only one that I've bet right now outside of those 2 guys, like right around that 100 to 1 range, was Andrew Putnam at 111 to 1 with 8 places.
I mean, Putnam makes a lot of sense here. I've bet Putnam many, many times when he has to putt, and he has to use his wedge. Um, I'm not going there around that number. There's two guys that kind of catch my attention. It's mainly for their ball striking. The first one is Ben Coles. You can
Can't
see
do it.
him on the board at 90 to 1.
You gotta make a putt here. He can't do that.
Well, I mean,
He can't putt. He's like bad Luke List somehow.
Luke List got a brutal drive-by last week down there in Mexico because there was no shot link. Poor
A
guy.
12. A 12. You don't see a lot of 12s on a scorecard.
Yeah, but everyone kept throwing up his shot link from the fairway. I was like, I get it. The guy's in a runoff area. Come on. What are we doing? All right. And then the second guy, kind of out of left field, but this guy's ball striking really impresses me. And I've been kind of watching his trend. And if you like Matty Schmid,
Can I guess? I know exactly who it is because I've bet on him too. Can I guess who it is?
Sure. Yeah, I gave you a huge hit with Schmid, but yeah, go ahead.
It's Rosenmuller, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's sitting at 90, give or take whatever book that you're looking at. But guys like him and Coles at that number, I feel like have the ball striking credentials that we need this week. And we need a little bit of putting, but they're 90 to 1 for a reason. This isn't Nico at 20. This isn't, Vince Whaley's home course, where he tends to like top 8 every year, like you have to take some stretches down here. And I'd rather go after somebody like Rosenmuller or Coles than go for Grayson Sigg, even though I also like Grayson Sigg this week, but like going to do different things with those guys, whether it be DFS markets or placements or head to heads. But I have a decision to make. I'm going to bet one of those two guys, Coles or Rosenmuller, and I'll figure it out by Wednesday when I publish. But like, those are two guys that I like a lot here.
So yeah, I'll reserve judgment on some of the other guys. Manticero was another one who popped up for me. He's 175 to 1, but he might be like almost a lot of these guys. Like I was just trying to think through my mind about like first round leaders, like Paul Peterson. I think Manticero is probably a play as a first round leader. Like he can get hot enough for one round. Can he do it for the entire time? I don't know. Maybe I'll depending on where I end up with the betting card, that maybe I do end up on him and just throw like a few darts down the board. But I think the first round leader, the top 20 market, is probably the better market for him.
For Mateo?
Yeah.
Mateo's been rough lately.
Yeah.
He's been rough.
But he's rough until his like T3. And then it's like, okay. Now he goes back to being terrible again.
I definitely, I love some of the darts that you're going to throw are on these European players that will feel much more comfortable playing in this wind than the American players will. So if you're going to go further down the board, I would definitely favor those guys with the lower ball flight that are really good long iron players that can handle these par threes. They can handle the par fives. They can score where they need to. And then, you hope for the best because maybe they haven't been trending lately or, the guy's 180 to 1, for a reason.
For sure. That's always a big factor here is that there's a reason that they are these like Paul Peterson. Why is Paul Peterson 200 to 1? Well, he's not very good and he's been absolute crap lately, but his baseline skill set is what you want here.
Absolutely. And, people, they'll go nuts on social media. Like, oh my God, that guy, that was the worst pick ever. I was like, well, you didn't really listen or read what I wrote. It's like, I need these planets to align. And if they do, this is the type of guy that hits here and you have to pick one of them. And you run with it.
Most people are very content with flipping coins on a -110 football game. We're trying to find a 200 to 1 guy here. More stuff has to go right for Paul Peterson to win than your Commanders did to have to beat the Lions, put it that way.
Or less things have to go right in order for Nick Dunlop to be the first round leader and spike for one round. It just so happened to be the first round down there in Mexico, right? Like we dig into this. Like this is my life week in and week out, the LPGA and the PGA Tour. I know what these guys are good and bad at and who's trending and what the golf, like most of all, I know what the golf courses are like. Like I lean very heavily into playability. And I love the fact that you can bend BetSperts, the rabbit hole in order to like kind of really cater to what it is going on in my mind, because that is going to get you down to a list of like a dozen guys that are going to make you money because they are going to work out here. And if you don't track them for like 100 straight rounds and you keep them a little bit more short term, those are the people that you should be eyeing. And that's what makes this fun for me. And yeah, further down the board, you always want me to kind of dig down there, but like those Manacero makes sense. He has proven he has the skill set and can win. And as a European player in the wind, it makes sense to me. He could totally not show up, but in a shortened field right? He has a better chance of making the cut, hanging around and doing some damage.
It did almost just to add on to your point. Like last week, yeah, we hit Nick Dunlap 200-1, chop to 100 to be first round leader. Also on my first round card was Camilo Villegas, who I think came, if it wasn't for this guy who I've never heard of, who I think shot 20 over in the first round, Camilo would have been dead last.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways on this.
Well, it absolutely does. But, you know, a 200-1 hit or 100-1 hit goes a long way. And that's what we're here to do. I mean, anyone could sit there and pick Scotty all the time. And yeah, sure, that's fun. And you might win and whatever. But then bet the NFL, like you said, you know, a -110 money line and go have at it. You know, like the reason that people bet golf is because it's the 4-day lottery. Or if you want to do first round leader, it's the 1-day lottery, right? Like these are the hits that we're designed as human beings, you and I, to think about, come up with, and then play. And then we hit them. That's why people watch.
Very quickly, do you have any leans early on the LPGA Tour yet, or have you not seen the board?
I did look at the board. I was a little more prepared this morning for you. So they're going back to America. They're playing in Tampa. They're playing the Pelican Golf Club. What's notable about that is that you would have seen it a couple of years ago. That was the one where Spieth and JT beat Tiger and Rory in the 9-hole nighttime match, right?
Okay.
But what's significant if you like the LPGA and you want to bet the LPGA, it's one of the few par 70 golf courses they play. It is closely mown area everywhere, right? So this is one of those places where the driver doesn't really matter, but your approach play, your ability to get up and down and putt on Bermuda greens, a little bit of wind there because you're in Tampa, you're about 2 miles from the coast, but it's not terrible. But the big thing is you got to be able to score on par 4s. You've got to be able to get the job done there because you're just getting 2 fewer par 5s. Nelly's won there 3 of the last 4 years. They've only played this tournament 5 times, I think. Average winning scores around 15 under. I'm looking at Hannah Green. She's right around 30. Maybe she's moved up or down since we started this little chat this morning, but I like Hannah Green. She's coming off a 5th.
28-1.
Okay, so I saw her at 28-1 this morning. I saw another book had her at 30. I think it was 365 had her at 30, but she'll be right around that number. It's worthwhile betting her. She's coming off a 5th and a 2nd, and she's placed 4th here before. You know, coming from down in Australia, I love her skill set to get in and around these green complexes. That's why she's played well here before. I think if you run with her, much like our girl Shuri Sakuma, who got robbed on Sunday last week in Japan of her opportunity to chase down Nasa Hataoka. I think Hannah Green, you'll get 4 rounds, and we'll have a little bit of a sweat on Sunday afternoon.
Hannah Green at CoolBet right now, 33-1. There's your best number on market, coolbet.com. Thank you to my good friends at CoolBet. So very quickly, the quick picks for me so far. All of the updates will be in the newsletter on Wednesday when I release the final bets. I'll have my article up on betsportsgolf.com completely free, and I'll have the cheat sheet up there as well if you're looking for that. Plus, I'll tweet it out. Everyone knows where to find this stuff. Kuchar, 37-1. Lauer, 60-1 with the top 5. Putnam, 100-1 with 8 places. Valimaki, 45-1. Those are the 4 mains as of right now. I'll probably add 1 or 2 others to that to go along with Peterson, 200-1, along with Blades Brown, 200-1, both with 8 places as super bombs. Peterson and Mantasero, first round leader at the moment. Still trying to see if I want Snedeker, Skins, one of those guys to go along with them. And then we're going to go with Hannah Green over on the LPGA Tour in Tampa at 33-1. Tune in to Mayo Media Network if you want a breakdown of the DP World Tour Final. Sky and Tom are going to have that for you. And Keith, readtheline.com. You got stuff coming out every day?
I'm going to do this with you. You could watch that, and then the newsletter will come out on Wednesday.
Excellent. So readtheline.com, KJ Stewart PGA on Twitter as well. Thank you all for watching. Smash the like while you're here. Give me your winner down in the comment section as well. If you've made it this far, why not? All right? We'll see you next time.
Mayo experience. Experience.